Welcome to the CRS Elevation Certificate training series on how to fill out an elevation certificate correctly. Specifically, how to do it for the 2023 elevation certificate for CRS purposes. This is a companion video to the series of 9 videos we have that cover how to fill out all sections of the elevation certificate. Unlike the rest of the series, this video focuses on common issues found across all EC sections. This is part 1 of the 2-part training on general issues. It is best to view this video after you've seen the other 6 videos on how to fill out each section of the EC. Watching in this order will give you the basics on what each section captures, how and why it's used, and how to make sure all the fields are complete and correct. The CRS EC training videos are primarily created for local officials who have to collect, review, and correct these forms so that they are correct for CRS purposes. Surveyors, engineers, and architects who are authorized by law to certify elevation information should also find these videos helpful. Let's first address the new EC form. The latest elevation certificate is dated August 2023 with an expiration date of June 30th, 2026. While the first version of the 2023 EC form was released on July 7, 2023, and a subsequent update was made to it September 5, 2023, the form was not required to be used until November 1, 2023. Any ECs that are signed and dated as of November 1, 2023 must be on the latest version of the form. Additional fields, additional requirements, and 2 new sections were added to the 2023 form. Please pay special attention to these updates and re-watch our training videos as they are all updated with new information about this new form. Let's discuss a common problem now that the new form is effective. If you as the local floodplain manager receive the previous EC form that is signed and dated after November 1st, 2023, it is an outdated form and should not be accepted. For CRS purposes, it is considered an error. To fix this error, the local floodplain administrator may take the latest elevation certificate, transfer all the information from Section C on the outdated EC to Section C on the new form. Next, fill in all the other information in Section A and B. The local official should then go to Section G on the latest form, check the box for G1, and attach the outdated EC to this new form. Be sure to enter the local official's name and title, sign and date the new form, and include comments in Section G explaining what you're doing. Now that we've discussed the newest version of the EC that should be used, let's discuss how to fill out the EC completely and accurately. The CRS is concerned with all fields that tell us whether a building is NFIP compliant and all fields needed for the proper insurance rating of a building. FEMA's implementation of the current rating methodology has removed the requirement for elevation certificates for insurance purposes. However, FEMA is discovering that a large majority of property owners are receiving better rates if they submit the EC for insurance rating. So, the EC is still an important tool for insurance purposes. We recommend watching the 9 videos in the CRS EC training series to better understand how ECs should be filled out completely and accurately. Additionally, we've created a cheat sheet called the EC checklist. The checklist shows you each field CRS specialists check on the EC and provide some comments about what's acceptable. You can find this form for the current and some past EC forms on our website at crsresources.org under the 300 Series tab. All pages of the form are shown along with the fields we check for CRS purposes. In addition to checking that ECs are filled out correctly, the timing of EC submittal is important for CRS communities. Changes from the 2021 CRS Addendum affects when communities submit ECs. ECs are no longer submitted with your cycle verification, They are now submitted by all communities annually at your recertification date. Every community will have to submit them no matter when you just cycled, regardless of if you are currently in a cycle or have one coming up later in the year. These points are crucial for continued participation with the CRS program. For more details on this, please see the recorded video we have on this titled CRS Class 9 and Activity 310 Changes for 2021. You can find this video at our website, crsresources.org/training. Next, let's discuss proper storage, seals, signatures, and annotations on elevation certificates. While you are in the CRS program, you must keep a record of your ECs forever. Keeping your ECs in perpetuity is a best practice for any community, as they are very important records for building permitting. They can be kept in any format that allows you to retrieve them both for yourself and for public inquiries. While they can be submitted to ISO either in hard copy or digital formats, we strongly encourage you to submit them digitally. For your records, you need to have the form sealed. Sometimes an EC may have an embossed seal or one that doesn't show very well after it's copied. For CRS purposes, we will still accept the form. At a minimum, we need to see the certifier's name, license number, signature, and date. While we're talking about signatures, let's talk about digital signatures. The latest EC form allows surveyors to sign and lock down sections C and D so no one else can edit what was certified. However, it does leave other sections editable, most notably section G, so that the local official can edit that section. Digital signatures are acceptable as long as the CRS specialist can tell that they were signed and they are not hidden. Finally, we'll talk about marking up ECs. Communities should not write on the form in a way that causes any important information to be blocked, uncertain, or misrepresented. Generally, you can write permit numbers or other useful information for permitting purposes on the form. However, communities cannot block any important information on the form when you do so. These annotations cannot change the form by writing on it either. With digital versions now more commonly used, please do not change anything on the form without first discussing it with the certifier. Section G is an exception. Communities should use the memo of correction or use Section G to make changes or clarifications. We have an entire video on how to make changes to or correct an EC. Please refer to that for the correct ways you can fix wrong information on the form. Finally, some state laws explicitly say only the certifier can write on the form or change it. Be sure you know your state law and know what surveyors can do and what you can do as the local official. In this video, we've discussed the correct version of the form, the EC checklist, submittals of ECs for CRS, and the proper handling of ECs. Next, let's discuss common errors. If there is one error on an EC, the entire EC is considered wrong. For CRS purposes, we count the number of ECs that have at least one error, not the total number of errors on each EC. Let's discuss the difference between errors and compliance issues. When ISO reviews your ECs, we are primarily determining if there are any errors on the EC. Errors might lead to a misrating or a misunderstanding when it comes to compliance matters. While FEMA officially determines compliance, your CRS specialists are generally pointing out buildings that may be possibly non-compliant based on the information from the EC. When a building is identified by us as being possibly non-compliant, it does not count as an error on the EC. It means the information on the form makes the building look non-compliant. However, it takes more than just the EC form to accurately determine compliance for some buildings. So, we report what the form shows and forward these ECs to your state NFIP office and FEMA regional office for them to do the compliance follow-up they deem necessary. Next, we'll discuss cold ECs. When you submit your ECs to ISO for review, we cull any ECs that do not fit the CRS requirement of all buildings constructed, substantially improved, and/or reconstructed due to substantial damage in the special flood hazard area. Examples of culled ECs are those for a structure in the X zone or uninsurable buildings like cell towers or small accessory sheds. Another example are non-substantial improvements, which may be noted in your permit list or on the EC itself. These are improvements of less than 50% of the value of the structure. All of these examples are not counted as wrong. They are just removed from consideration or culled. However, ECs that were marked in C1 as being based on construction drawings or buildings under construction are considered as errors, since this is not the final information needed for CRS purposes. Remember, only finished construction ECs are required for CRS purposes, so please be careful with what you are submitting. If a structure fits the NFIP definition of a historic structure, then a 50% or more improvement to the building or repair from damage does not qualify as a substantial improvement. Since it's not considered a substantial improvement, CRS does not require communities to submit an EC for it. However, it is a best practice to obtain one for your local records and mark it on your permit list as a non-substantial improvement. Next, we'll talk about multi-unit buildings. This includes condos, townhomes, duplexes, apartment complexes, etc. Since these are all considered one large building, it is normal for there to be one EC for the entire building. For insurance purposes, each unit is able to use a copy of that valid EC for their policy. For example, a condo association would obtain a policy covering the building, and each unit owner would insure their contents. For contents-only insurance coverage, the owner of the unit would use the EC for the entire building. Then, the location of the contents would be captured in order to determine the rate. Next, let's discuss the software used for reviewing ECs. ISO's review process consists of a software that reads ECs. Then, a resource specialist checks each field to ensure it was read correctly. Next, another piece of software is used to determine errors and possible non-compliance issues. Finally, a resource specialist confirms that the errors and compliance checks were done appropriately. Many communities have requested the software. Unfortunately, we cannot make our software available for the following reasons. The first is that the programming behind it is continually being perfected and updated as we improve our processes and as FEMA makes changes. Currently, we do not have the ability to push upgrades and provide tech support. Second, anyone confirming the software's results needs to fully understand how to enter the fields correctly and how the software works. It's not as simple as just entering the fields and receiving perfect results from the software. And lastly, anyone using the software requires extensive training. Users must know precisely what is and is not acceptable and how the software is programmed. The continual training required to use the software is not training that is available nationwide at this time. This concludes part 1 of our training on general issues with ECs. Please continue on to part 2. Thank you for watching and learning.